through our music, we would like you to feel the agony and also the pain and lot of sad happenings in Bangladesh and also the refugees who have come to India.
The famous concert for Bangladesh, and that was organized largely by George Harrison following a request by his friend Ravi Shankar. So that was probably the first concert raising money for charity on a scale like that. And they did two performances in one day at Madison Square Gardens, which must have been extremely difficult and exhausting. But the amount of money that was raised was not such a big amount at that time. But then over the years, the royalties that have been raised for UNICEF have gone on being raised for children in need. Then because of the campaigning that Oxfam America was doing in Washington against the American government support to Pakistan, then Oxfam America managed to link up with some of the American senators who came to the refugee camps and the visit of Edward Kennedy in August that year, when he came to as the chairman of the Senate subcommittee for refugees. When Edward Kennedy came, we helped coordinate his visit to the refugee camps, and one of my colleagues accompanied him with his trip to Tripura and North Bengal, and then he went back to Delhi and then sort of reported back to the Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, and was one of his famous interviews. He was talking about that he thought that the only crime that Sheikh Mujib, who was then in jail in Pakistan and under the threat of being executed on a charge of sedition, he understood, Edward Kennedy said he understood that the only crime that Sheikh Mujib had committed was to have won a general election. Oxfam took a decision. They wanted to. They had a brainstorming in the head office in Oxford, including people outside the organisation itself, to work out how to maybe not wake up the world, but make the world more aware of how very severe this refugee crisis is and how it will become much worse if the refugees have to go right through the winter to the following year. And so that's when an idea was launched that Oxfam would ask world leaders and and people who had visited the refugee camps, journalists and humanitarian workers, to provide statements to prove what is going on, sort of eyewitness accounts of what they saw. And so within a very short time, Oxfam was able to publish a document called the Testimony of 60, which was a collection of statements by different people. The two most famous names people would know, Senator Edward Kennedy and Mother Teresa, but many distinguished newspaper correspondents, even correspondents who had been involved with reporting on the different wars of Second World War onwards, and also a number of British members of Parliament who had visited the refugee camps. The publication was released to coincide with the General Assembly of the United Nations, and so copies were given to all UN ambassadors. And interestingly, that the Testimony of 60 document was taken by Senator Edward Kennedy to the Senate within a week of publication, and he asked that the full text of the document be taken into the congressional record as a record of what's happening in Bengal, meaning in what is now Bangladesh, and also West Bengal in India. So that was quite a remarkable achievement of Edward Kennedy, because the Senate was controlled by the Republican Party, and yet this Testimony of 60 was accepted as a evidence of what's happening in Bengal with no objections. So the whole text was reproduced in the congressional record, and that was part of that helped eventually in arms sales being stopped to Pakistan.